Okay, now let us move to the next subtopic in Introduction of Animal Biology, which is animal tissue. In this subtopic, you should be able to identify the 4 types of animal tissue and their functions. The types of animal tissues that you are going to learn in the next topic, which are epithelial tissue, muscular tissue, connective tissue, and nervous tissue. Let us look first into the epithelial tissue. Now, take a look at your skin right now. If you think that your skin is very smooth, it is actually made up of millions of epithelial cells that are tightly packed together. For your information, that's not the only place you can find the epithelial cells. The epithelial cells that made up the epithelial tissue is also lining the inside of your throat, intestines, blood vessels, and also all your organs. They act as a barrier between the inside and outside of your body and are often the first place that will be attacked by viruses as the viruses begin their invasion deeper into our body. Here are the different types of epithelial tissue. Notice that each type are named with 2 words, like simple squamous, simple cuboidal, stratified columnar, 2 words. Epithelial cells are named based on its shape and also the size of the shape. The 2 words are actually named after the layer and also the shape of the cells. Like in the example here, simple squamous epithelial tissue consists of simple layer and squamous shape. So, before we look into further details, let me sing an epithelial song for you. Epithelial, epithelial, epithelial tissue is classified into 2. First name is layer, simple and stratified, the 2 types of layer. Second name is shape, squamous, cuboidal, columnar, the 3 types of shape. So, how do you think? Is it interesting? Remember, the first name is layer and the second name is shape. Let me explain about the number of cell layer first. We call it as simple if the epithelial tissues are made up from 1 layer of epithelial cells. Meanwhile, if more than 1 layer that made up the epithelial tissue, it is called as stratified. Both simple and stratified are layers of epithelial tissue. Thus, it affects the function it plays at the location it can be found. For example, simple epithelial tissue can be found lining up the kidney and air sacs of the lung, which for the function are for absorption and also for diffusion to occur easily. What did you do to protect your home from burglars? Yes, you have gate, grills, locked door, and also even the CCTV. These are all layers of protection. Same goes with the epithelial tissues that consist of more than 1 layer, which called as stratified. For example, the one that found at the esophagus, which lining up the area for protection against abrasion, friction, and bacteria as we eat and as the food go through the esophagus system. Next is about the second name that consisted in the naming system of epithelial tissue. The shape of cells are depend on the location it can be found. It can be either flat, known as squamous shape, cube, known as cuboidal shape, or rectangular, known as columnar shape. Let us look into the squamous shape, the thin shape lining up the surface of kidney and also the air sacs of the lungs, and it is just enough to allow smooth flow of fluids and molecules to pass through them respectively. As for the cuboidal shape, it can be found lining up the kidneys and glands for secretion or absorptions of substance. As for the columnar epithelial shape, it can be found lining up the stomach, help in the secretion of mucus, and also it can be found in our tongue or our nose, just enough to receive sensory information. To summarize, the two names that made up the epithelial tissue's name consisting of the number of layer as the first name and the shape as the second name. Again, here are the various types of epithelial tissues that can be found all over our body. But wait, there are other two types of epithelial tissues. What are they? The first one is the pseudostratified columnar. The pseudo means false. Just in a first glance, you can see that it looks like it consists of more than one layer, but actually, if you look it closely enough, it just consisting of one thick layer. The pseudostratified columnar epithelial tissue can be found in nasal cavity and trachea, and also there are cilia that attach to the layer which can trap mucus that go through it. The second one is the transitional epithelial tissue. This type of epithelial tissue can be found in your bladder. If your bladder is empty, the shape is stratified cuboidal, but once you drink and your bladder is full with the urine, it can change into stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Notice that the shape from cuboidal change into a squamous shape, and this allows the bladder to stretch without breaking. Isn't this interesting? From stratified cuboidal, it transition occur into stratified squamous. This happen in your bladder. So here are the summary of the different types of epithelial tissue and the location of each type of tissue that can be found in our body. Simple, stratified, squamous, cuboidal, columnar, and how you can find it in your body.